Debit note. Okay, so here a debit note will be issued when a buyer returns the goods to the seller. That is, when a buyer purchase goods, okay, and if he returns the goods finding that there is a defective quality, that is, when you go and purchase, for an example, when you go and purchase say 10 pens, and you find one pen alone has got damaged, which is not writing properly, in that case you will go and return it to the seller, right? To the same shop you will go and return it, saying that this is defective, this is not writing properly. So in such case, either he will give the amount back to you, or he will exchange the pen, right? The same thing happens here in the business also. When the purchaser finds that the goods are defective, or it does not meet his expectation or the specifications whatever he has asked for, in that case a debit note will be issued. So here, when goods are returned by the buyer prepares a debit note and sends it to the seller, right? Which means you only go and inform the seller that the good is defective. The same thing happens here also. The buyer will prepare a debit note and sends it to the seller, and what all should it contain is, the debit note will have the description of the goods, that is, what type of a product he is going to return, how much quantity he is going to return, and also their value, which means the amount of that particular defective good. Okay, two copies are generally being prepared. One will be sent to the seller. Again, the another copy will be retained with the buyer itself, because he must have a proof saying that he has sent a debit note, right? So again, it is a document which is issued by the buyer stating that the quality is defective, the product's quality is found to be defective, and that is why it is being sent to the seller. So this debit note is also called as debit memo. You also have a specimen of a debit note here in page 34. The next topic is credit note. Okay, just like what we told now, debit note. Okay, a buyer will return the goods to the seller. Again here, once you go and give it to the shopkeeper, what the shopkeeper says is, either he will exchange the product or he will return the amount, right? So now that seller will prepare a credit note, because he has to again give it back to the manufacturers, and showing your credit note as a proof, he can do so. So now, when a seller receives any defective good from the customer, then in that case credit note is prepared by the seller and it is given to the customers. Okay, so again, this credit note will contain the description of the goods, that is the detail of whatever products which is being returned by the customer, how much quantity is returned, and their amount. Okay, and it is a document sent by the seller to the buyer, which means the shopkeeper is going to give you a slip stating that yes, I have taken the goods in return and gave you money or exchanged the product. Okay, that is called as credit note, and it is otherwise called as credit memo.